The interior of the Great Pyramid is completely empty. No mummies, no treasures, not a single inscription on the walls. 3 million stone blocks, each weighing 2.5 tons, stacked with millimeter precision to protect nothing. Consider that number. 138 pyramids in Egypt, and not one of them has ever contained the body of a pharaoh. Not one. But here's the interesting thing. They tell us these are tombs, but where are the dead? Official science claims slaves and peasants built the Great Pyramid in 20 years with copper tools, without the wheel, without iron, without cranes. 2.3 million stone blocks in 20 years. That means one block every 4.5 minutes, day and night, without breaks, without days off, for 20 years straight. Sounds crazy? I thought so too, until I saw the documents. Here are 3 things you'll learn in this investigation. First, why the official construction version is physically impossible. Second, what technologies were actually used. And third, why have Egyptologists been hiding the truth for 150 years? The Great Pyramid stands on the Giza Plateau. Its base is a perfect square with sides measuring 230 meters. The deviation from perfection? 58 millimeters by 230 meters. That's an accuracy of 0.02%. Modern builders with laser levels don't always achieve such precision. Now, a question I'd like your answers to in the comments. How did people do this when they didn't even have iron tools? I wonder how many of you already sensed something's amiss? The Great Pyramid was allegedly built by Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BC. Construction took 20 years. The workforce ranged from 20,000 to 100,000 people. The tools are copper chisels, wooden wedges, and stone hammers. Sounds logical until you start counting. The first discrepancy. Time 2.3 million blocks divided by 20 years, or 365 days per year, equals 7,300 days. That's 315 blocks per day. Now imagine the process. First, a block has to be cut from the rock. Then it has to be hewn to the desired shape. Then it has to be transported. Some blocks were transported 800 kilometers from Aswan. Then it has to be raised to a height of 146 meters, the equivalent of a modern 50-story building. And finally, it has to be installed with millimeter precision. And all this 315 times a day. Egyptologist Mark Lair, the leading proponent of the official version, conducted an experiment in 1997. A team of 12 people, using replicas of ancient tools, attempted to cut a single limestone block. The result? 1 block in 8 days. 8 days per block, but 315 per day are needed. Second discrepancy. Materials inside the pyramid are granite blocks. Red Aswan granite. Its hardness on the Mohs scale is 7. For comparison, copper is 3, and diamond is 10. Cutting granite with a copper chisel is like cutting concrete with a plastic knife. The tool will wear out before you make the first scratch. The king's chamber contains 9 granite ceiling slabs. Each weighs between 25 and 80 tons. They were transported 800 kilometers up the Nile from Aswan. But the weight isn't the important thing. The quality of the workmanship is. In 1995, engineer Christopher Dunn, who had worked in the aerospace industry for 20 years, received permission to inspect the granite sarcophagus in the king's chamber. He took special measuring instruments with him, the kind used to check the accuracy of jet engine parts. The sarcophagus's interior surfaces are perfectly flat. The tolerance is 0.02 millimeters across the entire surface. Dan checked 3 times, then checked again. The result was the same. Such precision is only achieved today with industrial CNC machines. And the Egyptians supposedly had copper tools and sand for grinding. Dan wrote a report and sent it to scientific journals. Do you know what they said? Nothing. Not a single journal published it. Not a single Egyptologist commented. Silence. Third inconsistency, geography. The Great Pyramid stands at coordinates 29.979 minutes north. Remember that number, 29.979. Now remember the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. See the coincidence? 29,979 and 299,792. The first 7 digits are identical. Coincidence is possible, but then explain another coincidence. The perimeter of the pyramid's base is 921 meters. The height is 146.6 meters. Divide the perimeter by twice the height. You get 3.14. Pi. Accurate to hundredths. And another thing, if you draw a line from the top of the pyramid due north, it will pass through more land than any other line on the planet. The pyramid stands at the exact geographic center of the entire Earth's landmass. The Bronze Age Egyptians didn't know all the continents. They didn't know about America. They didn't know about Australia. How did they know where the center of the Earth was? Or didn't they know? And then who knew? The fourth discrepancy, the most troubling, is this. Historians say Khufu built the pyramid. The only evidence is a cartouche, an oval frame with the pharaoh's name, found in the unloading chamber above the king's chamber. The cartouche was discovered by the British explorer Howard Vyse in 1837. But there's a problem. First, Vyse came to Egypt. He had a specific goal, to make a discovery and become famous. 3 years earlier, he had spent a fortune on an expedition and found nothing. Investors demanded results. Secondly, the inscription contains a spelling error. Khufu's name is written using the Ra sign, the symbol of the sun god. But during the 4th dynasty, this sign was not used in royal names. It's like finding a Roman coin with an inscription in modern Italian. Thirdly, and this is crucial, no Egyptologist before Wyss had seen this inscription. The unloading chambers had been sealed for millennia. Wyss opened them with dynamite, alone, without witnesses. And a few months later, surprise, he found exactly what he was looking for. 2 German researchers, Stefan Erdmann and Dominik Gerlitz, took a paint sample from the cartouche for analysis in 2013. The results showed the paint contains modern chemical compounds, not ancient ones, modern ones. They were accused of vandalism and banned from entering Egypt. The research materials were classified. Why? If the cartouche is genuine, show the analysis results, prove it. But instead, bans, accusations, silence. Let's say that the official version is wrong. Let's say that the pyramid wasn't built by Khufu, or not only by Khufu, or not by the Bronze Age Egyptians at all. Then who? To answer this question, we need to look at what Egyptologists studiously ignore: physical artifacts, stones, tool marks. In 1983, petrographer Joseph Davidovits put forward a theory. The pyramid blocks weren't hewn from rock, but cast like concrete. Sounds crazy? Look at the facts. Davidovits took limestone samples from the pyramid and from the quarry in Tura, where the stone was supposedly taken. He conducted chemical analysis. Result? The composition is different. The pyramid blocks contain microscopic air bubbles, like solidified foam. Natural limestone does not contain such bubbles. The pyramid blocks contain organic fibers and plant remains. Natural limestone, 50 million years old, contains no organic matter. Davidovits's conclusion? The Egyptians knew the technology for producing artificial stone, geopolymer concrete. They mixed limestone chips with water and a binding agent, possibly natron, poured them into molds, and waited for them to harden. This explains the speed of construction. This explains the perfect fit of the blocks. They were cast tightly together. This explains why there are no tool marks on the blocks. But this doesn't explain granite. Granite cannot be cast. Granite is an igneous rock. It forms at temperatures over 600 degrees Celsius, deep underground. The pyramid contains thousands of tons of processed granite, with perfect surfaces, precision down to the centimeter. In March 1999, Egyptian authorities closed the Great Pyramid to visitors. The official reason was restoration. In reality, a team of engineers with endoscopic equipment, small cameras on flexible cables, was sent inside. They were exploring the so-called ventilation shafts, narrow channels leading from the King's Chamber and Queen's Chamber to the outside. The shaft is 20 centimeters wide. In the southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber, 60 meters from the entrance, the camera detected an obstacle, a stone slab with 2 copper pins. Egyptologists called this a door. In 2002, a robot drilled through the slab. Behind it, there was another slab. They drilled through that too. Behind it, there was an empty space and strange red symbols on the wall. What are these symbols? Officially unknown. The photographs are classified. The public was shown only blurry images at a press conference. More than 20 years have passed. No publications, no research, no explanation of what they found. The most interesting discovery was made by French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin in 2005. He studied the pyramid's internal structure using microgravimetry, a method that measures the slightest changes in the gravitational field. The results revealed an anomaly. The pyramid has a spiral structure inside. Hollow spaces spiral from the bottom up, like a spiral staircase. Houdin suggested this was an internal ramp. The blocks were lifted up it, not from the outside, but from the inside. A beautiful theory, but there's a problem. If the ramp exists, why wasn't it discovered earlier? Houdin's answer: the ramp was walled up, deliberately hidden, filled with stones after construction was completed. Why hide the construction technology? It's like hiding scaffolding after the building is built. Pointless. Unless there's something else hidden inside the ramp, something they weren't supposed to find. In November 2017, an international team of physicists announced a sensation. The project was called Pyramid Scan. Scientists from Japan, France, and Egypt used muon tomography, the same method used to scan volcanoes and nuclear reactors. Muons are elementary particles that originate in the upper atmosphere. They pass through any material, but the density of the substance affects their trajectory. The scan results shocked me.ir. A previously unknown cavity has been discovered inside the Great Pyramid. It's at least 30 meters long, possibly more. A 30-meter-long void, a hidden chamber the size of a passenger plane, unknown for 4,500 years. Egyptian authorities immediately issued a statement. Minister of Antiquities Khalid El-Anani said, "The discovery requires further verification. We will not jump to conclusions." That was in 2017. Now it's 2025. 8 years have passed. No further research has been conducted. Drilling is prohibited. Access to the area above the Grand Gallery is closed. A 30-meter-long hidden chamber in the center of the greatest ancient structure. And no one wants to know what's inside. Or maybe someone does. And that's why they're keeping everyone else out. In 1881, British archaeologist William Flinders Petrie conducted the first scientific study of the pyramid. He was meticulous, measuring everything, recording every detail. In the King's Chamber, Petrie discovered a granite sarcophagus. But he noticed something else. On the sarcophagus's inner surface were tool marks, parallel grooves 0.5 millimeter deep. The distance between the grooves was exactly 2.5 millimeters across the entire surface. They were identical. Petrie was an engineer. He knew what different tool marks looked like. Handwork leaves uneven marks. The hand trembles. The pressure varies. These marks were perfectly straight, perfectly parallel, perfectly uniform. Petrie wrote in his report, "Such marks could only be made by a rotating tool with a fixed tooth, similar to a modern circular saw. A circular saw in the Bronze Age was used to cut granite, a material harder than steel. But that's not all. Petrie found something even more disturbing. In the rubble around the pyramid, Petrie discovered stone fragments with strange holes, cylindrical holes ranging from 5 to 15 centimeters in diameter, perfectly round, with smooth walls. The walls had spiral grooves, like the threads inside a nut. The spiral pitch was 2.5 millimeters, the same as on the sarcophagus. Petrie realized these were drilling marks. The ancient Egyptians used tubular drills. They plunged into the stone, rotating and cutting into the material. But the speed of the cutting action amazed Petrie most. He calculated that to leave such a deep groove in a single rotation, the drill must have applied a force of 2 tons or rotated at 500 revolutions per minute. 2 tons of pressure is impossible by hand. 500 revolutions per minute is equivalent to a modern electric motor. Egyptologists explain: copper pipe, sand for the abrasive, a wooden pole for rotation, manual labor. Petrie objected, "Copper is too soft. It will wear out before the sand can penetrate the granite, and no pole can produce 500 revolutions per minute. This is physically impossible when rotated by hand." His objection was ignored. Petrie's report was published in 1883, 140 years ago. Since then, no Egyptologist has repeated his measurement, and no one has explained the discrepancies. Silence. In 1996, American engineer Chris Dunn gained access to the Petrie collection at University College London. Tens of thousands of artifacts from Egypt. Dunn was looking for those very same stone fragments with drill marks. He found them. He measured them with modern instruments. The results confirmed Petrie's calculations. Moreover, Dan discovered a detail that Petrie had missed. The spiral groove on the granite went deeper than on the quartz, even though quartz is softer than granite. This defies the logic of abrasive drilling. If you rub sand on a stone, the soft material wears away faster. The groove should be deeper on quartz, not on granite. The only explanation? The drill cut the stone directly, with a blade that cuts granite more easily than quartz. Such a material doesn't exist. Even diamond cuts all minerals equally. So it wasn't a mechanical tool, but something else. Dan suggested ultrasound, high-frequency sound waves focused into a narrow beam. They destroy the crystalline structure of the stone at the molecular level. Coarse-grained granite deteriorates faster than fine-grained quartz. Ultrasonic drilling 4,500 years ago. The specimens are still in the museum. Anyone can see them. Anyone can measure them. Anyone can repeat the Petrie and Dunn experiment. But no one does. Egyptologists ignore this collection. They don't mention them in textbooks. They don't discuss them at conferences, as if these artifacts don't exist. But they do exist. They sit on the shelves of a museum in London. Stone witnesses to technologies that shouldn't have existed. If the ancient Egyptians possessed such technologies, where did they go? Why are there no records, no images? Why are there only primitive copper tools in the tombs of the pharaohs? The answer may be simple, frighteningly simple, because they weren't Egyptians. In 2005, excavations began beneath the Great Pyramid. The official goal was to explore the underground chambers. The work was led by an Egyptian archaeologist, .og. I won't reveal his name. He's still working in Egypt. Through mutual acquaintances, I managed to obtain a fragment of his personal diary. Entry from March 14, 2005. We went down a vertical shaft to a depth of 12 meters. The air is heavy, barely moving. There are no decorations on the walls, no inscriptions, only bare stone. At the 15-meter mark, there's a horizontal corridor, about a meter wide. After 40 meters, there's a small chamber, about 4 meters. In the center is an object. Here, the entry ends. The next one is dated March 23rd, 9 days later. It doesn't mention the find. Only technical notes about the soil and ventilation. What kind of object was in the chamber? I tried to contact this archaeologist. I emailed him 3 times at work and got through once. He hung up as soon as I mentioned the topic. The excavation ceased in April 2005. The official reason was a lack of funding. The entrance to the shaft was concreted over, but something still leaked. A security guard working on the excavation told a journalist he knew. A small box, about the size of a box, was recovered from the shaft. It was wooden and covered in metal. It was very old. The box was taken to an unknown location. Not to the Cairo Museum, the journalist checked, nor to the Ministry of Antiquities storage facility. It simply disappeared. We don't know what was in the box. We don't know yet. The man who claims to have seen the contents of the box is named Ahmed. I won't reveal his last name. He still lives in Egypt. He worked as a restoration technician at the Cairo Museum from 1992 to 2011. In 2018, 13 years after the excavations, he contacted an independent researcher from Germany. The meeting took place in Hurghada. The conversation was recorded. This is what Ahmed said. In April 2005, he was summoned to the administrative building of the Ministry of Antiquities without explanation. There were 3 people in the office. He knew 2 of them, officials from the ministry. He had never seen the third. He was Caucasian, gray-haired, about 60 years old, wearing an expensive suit. He spoke Arabic with an accent, possibly French. On the table stood a box, wooden, lined with metal strips, the size of a shoebox. Ahmed was told, the contents need to be preserved. The box was opened in front of him. Inside was linen fabric, almost rotted, several layers. Ahmed removed them with tweezers, layer by layer. Under the fabric lay an object. Ahmed fell silent at this point in the recording for a long time. Then he said, I've been working with antiquities for 20 years, seen thousands of artifacts, but this, the object was metal, the size of an adult man's palm, flat, and about a centimeter thick. It was an irregular rectangle with rounded corners. The surface was smooth, perfectly smooth, like polished glass. The color was dark gray, with a slight metallic sheen. Not gold, not silver, not bronze. Something else. On one side was a depression, a geometric pattern. The lines, circles, and dots were too perfect for handcraft, too complex for primitive tools. Ahmed picked up the object. It was heavier than it looked, and warm. Not room temperature, warmer, as if someone else had just held it. But there was no one in the room. Ahmed did what he always did. He took a photo, measured it, and wrote it down in his journal. Weight, 412 grams. Length, 15 centimeters. Width, 9 millimeters. Thickness, 11 millimeters. And then he did something he shouldn't have. He took a small magnet out of his pocket. He always carried it with him to test metals. He brought it to the object. The magnet neither attracted nor repelled. It hovered in the air, a centimeter above the surface. Ahmed removed his hand. The magnet remained suspended. He stared at it for a few seconds. Then the magnet fell, as if something had switched off. Ahmed tried again. Same effect. The magnet hovered for a few seconds, then fell. Every time. He didn't know what it meant, but he realized this wasn't an ancient artifact. This was something else entirely. The next day, the object was taken away. The same European arrived, accompanied by 2 civilians. They silently packed the box into an aluminum case and left without a word. They told Ahmed, "Forget it, nothing happened." The documentation was destroyed in his presence, burned in a metal bucket right in his office. But he kept the photographs. He made copies onto a flash drive before handing over the camera. These photographs are the only proof the object existed. A researcher from Germany saw them. He says the quality is poor, taken with an old phone, but the main points are visible. A geometric pattern on the surface. What does it look like? Like a microchip. I know how that sounds. A 4,500-year-old microchip under the Great Pyramid. Absurd. But let's look at the facts. Fact 1. The object was found in a sealed chamber at a depth of 15 meters. This chamber hasn't been opened for millennia. The dust on the floor is untouched. Fact 2. The object's material has not been identified. Not gold, not silver, not bronze, not iron. Something else. Fact 3. The object created a magnetic anomaly. Magnet levitation isn't a trick, it's physics. F the Meissner effect. Superconductors repel magnetic fields. But superconductivity is only possible at extremely low temperatures, minus 200 degrees Celsius and below. And the object was warm. Fact 4. The pattern on the surface is geometrically regular, repeating, and complex. This is exactly what printed circuit boards look like. Either Ahmed is lying, or they found technology under the pyramid that shouldn't exist. I'm leaning toward the latter, and here's why. Ahmed's story isn't the only one. In 1936, British engineer Walter Bryan Amory was excavating at Saqqara, 30 kilometers from Giza. Under one of the small pyramids, he found a chamber containing unusual objects. Among them were stone discs, flat, round, about 30 centimeters in diameter, with a hole in the center, resembling gramophone records. Just a few hundred discs stacked in piles. The surface had spiral grooves, like a vinyl record, from the center to the edge. Emery assumed they were some kind of ritual objects. He recorded them, photographed them, and sent them to the Cairo Museum. There they lay for 20 years. No one paid any attention. Then, in 1958, a young Egyptologist named Zakaria Ghanem saw them. He had just returned from Europe, where he had been studying the latest sound recording technologies, vinyl records, magnetic tape. Ghanem looked at the discs and felt a chill. The grooves on the stone were too regular, too uniform, and most importantly, they were traceable. One continuous spiral from the center to the edge, like a real record. He wrote a memo. I propose examining the discs for possible information recordings. A week later, he was suspended from his post. The official reason was a violation of research protocol. 2 years later, Ghanem died. He drowned in the Nile under strange circumstances. The discs are still stored in the Cairo Museum's storerooms. They are not allowed to be studied. You can't even photograph them. Stone discs with grooves are one thing. Magnetic levitation is another. How are they connected? To understand the connection, we need to go back to the beginning, to the most important question. Why was the pyramid built? The official version is that it was a tomb, but we already know that not a single mummy was found inside. No treasures, no funerary inscriptions. An alternative version is that it was a temple, a place for rituals. But the inner chambers are too small for ceremonies. The corridors are too narrow for processions. And most importantly, there are no images of gods, not a single one. There is a third version. It's not mentioned in textbooks, but it's supported by a growing number of independent researchers. The pyramid is a machine. In 1998, engineer Christopher Dunn published a book, The Giza Power Plant. His theory sounds crazy, but it explains what mainstream science can't. Look, the Great Pyramid is built of limestone, but the King's Chamber is made of granite. Granite contains up to 30% of its volume of quartz. Quartz has a piezoelectric effect. When mechanically pressed, it generates an electrical charge. The pyramid weighs 6 million tons. This is a colossal pressure on the lower blocks. The quartz in the granite of the King's Chamber is under constant compression. Theoretically, it should generate electricity. But that's not all. Above the King's Chamber are 5 so-called relief chambers. Officially, they're needed to distribute the weight and protect the chamber from collapse. But why 5? 1 would have been enough. The Egyptians knew this. The other pyramids only had 1 unloading chamber. Dan suggested, these aren't unloading chambers, but resonators. 5 chambers, 5 different sizes, 5 different resonant frequencies, like the 5 strings of a guitar. They amplify vibrations of certain frequencies and dampen others. What frequency? Dan calculated around 100 hertz, a low hum, almost infrasound, at the edge of hearing. You know what's interesting? The Earth vibrates too. The Schumann resonance, the planet's natural electromagnetic frequency, is about 8 hertz. The 12th harmonic is 96 hertz, almost 100. Coincidence? Dan's theory is as follows. The pyramid is a device for collecting and amplifying energy, both acoustic and electromagnetic. The shafts, called ventilation shafts, are actually waveguides. They direct sound waves from the outside into the pyramid. The Grand Gallery is a resonator. Its strange shape, with a corridor widening toward the top, is ideal for amplifying low frequencies. The King's Chamber is the heart of the system. Granite blocks under pressure generate electricity. Resonators above the chamber amplify vibrations. Quartz converts mechanical energy into electrical energy. And the sarcophagus in the center of the chamber is not a coffin. It's a capacitor, a device for storing charge. When the system was operating, a powerful electric field was generated inside the sarcophagus. Perhaps plasma, perhaps something else. Madness? Perhaps. But this theory explains 3 mysteries that mainstream science cannot explain. Mystery 1. Why is there no soot inside the pyramid? The ancient Egyptians used oil lamps and torches. Any light source of that time produced smoke and soot. The tomb walls are covered in a layer of soot. But inside the Great Pyramid, there's no trace of soot. Not on the walls, not on the ceiling, not anywhere. How did the builders see in the dark? The official explanation? A system of mirrors reflected sunlight from the outside in. Problem: it doesn't work. The light is lost after 2 or 3 reflections. Dan's theory? They didn't need external light. The pyramid itself produced a glow, either plasma or electrical. Riddle 2. Why is there a sarcophagus in the King's Chamber? The sarcophagus is wider than the entrance to the chamber. It couldn't have been brought in after construction. This means it was installed during construction. The chamber was built around it. If it's a coffin, why all the complications? Dan's answer? The sarcophagus is not a coffin. It's a key component of the machine. Its dimensions and position are calculated with engineering precision. Riddle 3. Salt deposits. There's a white coating on the walls of the Queen's Chamber. Analysis revealed it to be salt, sodium chloride, and traces of other minerals. Where did salt come from in a dry chamber in the middle of the desert? The official explanation: water and salt seeped from the surrounding rocks. Problem: there's no salt in the King's Chamber, but it's nearby, at the same level. Dan's theory? A chemical reaction took place in the queen's chamber. The salt is a byproduct. The chamber was part of a system that produced something else, possibly hydrogen, a gas that produces colossal energy when burned. Hydrogen energy 4,500 years ago. I know what you're thinking. That's too much. That's fantastic. The ancient Egyptians couldn't have known about electricity, hydrogen, or resonances. And here's the interesting part. Who said it was the Egyptians? In 1993, geologist Robert Schoch of Boston University came to Egypt. He was interested not in the pyramids, but in the Sphinx. The Sphinx stands next to the Great Pyramid. Officially, it was carved from the rock during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BC, at the same time as the pyramids. Schoch looked at the Sphinx and noticed something odd. The erosion on the Sphinx's body is vertical. Deep furrows run from top to bottom. This is a characteristic sign of water erosion, rainfall. But Egypt doesn't experience heavy rainfall. The last wet period ended about 7,000 years ago. Then came the desert. If the Sphinx is 2,500 years old, it has never seen rain. Why the water erosion? Schoch concluded that the Sphinx is much older, at least 7,000 years BC, possibly 10,000, 12,000. This means the Sphinx was built before Egyptian civilization, long before the pharaohs, long before the pyramids, or at the same time as the pyramids. If the pyramids are also older than we're told, Egyptologists have blasted Schoch, called him a charlatan, and refused to publish his work. But Schoch is no amateur. He's a professor of geology. He taught at Boston University for 20 years. His specialty is rock erosion. He knows what wind erosion looks like, what water erosion looks like. That's his job. And he says, the Sphinx shows signs of water, lots of water, thousands of years of torrential rains. And Egypt hasn't seen such rains since the last ice age, 10,000, 12,000 years ago. 12,000 years ago. Remember that date. Around the same time, the end of the last ice age coincided with global warming. Sea levels rose by 120 meters over several thousand years. According to geologists, a series of catastrophic floods occurred around the same time. Melting glaciers, glacial lake outburst floods, and tsunamis. According to Plato, Atlantis perished around the same time. Coincidence? And now, the most important part. In 2016, a group of researchers from Germany and Egypt conducted radiocarbon dating of the mortar in the pyramid, the binder that holds the blocks together. The result? 4,000 to 5,000 years old, consistent with the official dating. But that same year, another group from Ukraine took organic samples from the blocks themselves. Remember Davidovitz's theory about geopolymer concrete? If the blocks were cast, organic impurities, plants, and algae could have gotten into them. The analysis result? 7,000 to 12,000 years old, a difference of 2 to 3 times. How is this possible? Only one way. The blocks were made before they were cemented together, much earlier. Someone built a pyramid 12,000 years ago, and the Egyptians repaired it 5,000 years ago, re-cemented the blocks, added internal chambers, and claimed credit for it. This theory explains the main contradiction. Why did the Egyptians depict the construction of pyramids but leave no drawings? Why did they boast about tombs but not explain the technology? Why are there thousands of scenes of everyday life on the walls of temples, but not a single depiction of the lifting of multi-ton blocks? Because they didn't build. They found them. They found ancient structures, but didn't understand their purpose. They decided they were sacred places, adapted them for tombs, and claimed them as their own. But the real builders disappeared long before that, along with their technologies and their machines. Almost completely. Almost, because something remains, hidden, forgotten, waiting. That one, the object Ahmed saw, with a geometric pattern resembling a microchip, didn't appear out of nowhere. It was placed there deliberately in a sealed chamber beneath 15 meters of rock. Who placed it? Why? The answer may lie in another discovery, one known even less. In 1993, German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a robot into the southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber. The robot was named Wepwawet, after the Egyptian god who guided the underworld. At a distance of 63 meters from the entrance, the robot encountered an obstacle, a stone slab with 2 copper pins, the so-called Gantenbrink door. Egyptian authorities immediately halted the investigation. Gantenbrink was suspended, his equipment was confiscated, and his records were classified. The slab remained untouched for 9 years. In 2002, under pressure from the international community, the work was allowed to continue. A new robot drilled a hole in a slab. Behind it, another slab. It was also drilled. Behind it, there was empty space and something on the wall. Officially, they said red marks, paint on the stone, construction marks made by ancient workers. But one of the robot operators later told a journalist, these weren't marks. They were symbols, organized in rows and columns, like text, but not hieroglyphs. Something different, unfamiliar. High-resolution photographs have not yet been published. More than 20 years have passed. Something is written. There's a man who claims to know. He asked not to be named. He worked for an organization affiliated with the Egyptian government. He saw materials no one else had seen. He passed on a message through an intermediary. The symbols behind the door are not Egyptian. They are older, much older, and they repeat themselves. Repeats. The same symbols were found elsewhere, thousands of kilometers from Egypt, on another continent, on a monument that officially has no connection to the pyramids. Where? 1994. Turkey. Göbekli Tepe Hill. German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt begins excavations at a site that locals considered simply a pile of stones. A previous expedition in the 1960s concluded it was a medieval cemetery. They didn't dig. Schmidt dug deeper. Underground, they discovered a temple complex. Dozens of stone columns up to 6 meters high. Each weighs between 10 and 20 tons. The columns bear bas reliefs of animals, snakes, foxes, lions, and birds. Radiocarbon dating revealed an age of 11,000–12,000 years. This is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, officially older than the Egyptian pyramids by 7,000. Göbekli Tepe is the oldest known megalithic structure on Earth, and there are symbols on some of the columns. Geometric, repeating. The same as behind the door at Gantenbrink. I saw the photographs and compared them. Of course, the quality of the photographs from the mine is poor. Of course, the symbols on the columns of Göbekli Tepe have weathered over 12,000 years. But some elements are identical. A circle with a dot in the center. 2 parallel lines with a crossbar. A spiral of 7 turns. It could be a coincidence. Basic geometric shapes. Any person could have invented them independently. Or maybe not. Perhaps it's the same language, the same code, the same civilization. Part 20. Catastrophe, 12,000 years ago. Here's what we know for sure. 12,000 years ago, someone built Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a complex of giant stone columns. 12,000 years ago, perhaps someone built the Sphinx in Egypt or began building the pyramids. 12,000 years ago, the last ice age ended. The climate changed, sea levels rose, entire regions sank underwater, and then, nothing. 4,000 years without a trace of civilization. No monuments, no records, nothing. And only about 6,000 years ago did the first known civilizations appear. Sumer, Egypt, the Indus, as if they were starting over from scratch. Or not from scratch, but from what remained of their predecessors. Let's return to the pyramid. If it was built 12,000 years ago, who built it and why did they disappear? Official science will say there were no such people. Civilization arose 6,000 years ago. Before that, there were only hunters and gatherers. But then explain Göbekli Tepe. Explain the water erosion on the Sphinx. Explain the granite-cutting technologies that we can't replicate today. Explain the symbols. There's a theory, but people don't like to say it out loud. 12,000 years ago, there existed an advanced civilization on Earth. Not like ours, different, but capable of building monuments, cutting stone, and creating something else. Then a catastrophe occurred. Perhaps a comet, perhaps a flood, perhaps something else. The civilization was almost completely destroyed. A few survived, scattered across the world, became gods to primitive tribes, passed on some of their knowledge, and built new structures where they could. Then they too died. Knowledge was lost, technology forgotten. Only stones remain. Pyramids, temples, columns, and a few hidden treasures in case descendants find, understand, and restore them. That object under the magnetically levitated pyramid, it could be a key. Not literally, not a key to the door. A key to understanding. Example M of technology, instructions. If you study it, really study it, you can learn how the pyramid machine worked, what it produced, and why it was needed. But it was taken, hidden, and taken away to an unknown location. Who took it? Ahmed doesn't know who the European in the expensive suit was, but he remembers one detail: a badge on the lapel of his jacket. Small, almost invisible. A gold compass and square. A Masonic symbol. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Honestly, I'm not. But facts are facts. Masonic organizations exist. They are closed. They are influential. Among their symbols is a pyramid with an eye, the same one on the dollar bill. Why a pyramid? Officially, it's a symbol of enlightenment. The eye at the top represents divine knowledge. But what if it's not just a symbol? Do the Freemasons know something about the pyramids? Something we don't? In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Egypt. With him was an army and 167 scientists. The official purpose was to study antiquities. Napoleon spent the night inside the Great Pyramid, alone in the king's chamber. When he emerged in the morning, he was pale. An adjutant asked, "What happened?" Napoleon replied, "If I tell you, you won't believe me." He never spoke of the matter again for the rest of his life. What did he see? What did he experience? On his deathbed in 1821, he began to tell the story, but stopped mid-sentence. He said, "No, what's the point? No one will believe me anyway." And he died. It is known that Napoleon was a Freemason, initiated into the Philadelphia Lodge in 1798, the same year he arrived in Egypt. Coincidence? Napoleon brought back more than just the Rosetta Stone from Egypt. He brought knowledge, records, and possibly artifacts. What happened to these artifacts? Some are officially in the Louvre, under display, and others are unknown. In private collections, in closed vaults, in the hands of those who know more than they're saying. We're getting to the main point. All of this, Ahmed, the magnetically levitating object, the symbols behind the door, the connection to Göbekli Tepe, are pieces of the same puzzle. A pyramid is not a tomb. A pyramid is a machine, or part of a machine, part of a system. The system was created by a civilization unknown to us 12,000 years ago or earlier. The system was either disabled or broken, or it was deliberately shut down. but something remains, hidden inside, waiting. And there are people who know about it, who have found it, and who are hiding it. Remember the hidden chamber, 30 meters long? The one discovered in 2017 using ion tomography? For 8 years, not a single study, not a single publication. Access denied. What are they hiding there? I tried to find out. I wrote to the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, wrote to participants in the Pyramid Scan project, and wrote to journalists who covered the discoveries. Most didn't respond. Those who did respond said the same thing. No comment. But one person, I can't name him, he still works in academia, said on the phone, "There's something there, not just empty space, something." And when I saw the scan results, I'd never seen such an expression on the project manager's face. He turned white, and then the connection was lost. What's there? Another artifact? A library of ancient knowledge? The body of an unknown creature? Or something worse? Something that can't be shown to the world? Something that will change everything? There's information, unverified, from an anonymous source, that someone actually broke into the chamber in 2019, secretly, at night, without anyone watching, and they took it out. Part 23. Night in Giza, 2019, November, the Giza Plateau. The pyramid is officially closed for restoration. It's been 3 months. Tourists aren't allowed in. Security has been tightened. There are civilians around the perimeter, not Egyptians. On the night of November 23, 24, 3 unmarked vans pulled up to the northern entrance. The license plates were splattered with mud. There was equipment inside. The exact nature of it is unknown. The security guard on duty that night, later fired without explanation, told a friend. They worked until dawn. I heard the sound of drilling, dull and low. The ground vibrated underfoot. By 6 a.m., the vans had left. One of them contained an aluminum container the size of a coffin. What was in the container? The source I cited relayed the following through an intermediary. They found something in the hidden chamber, the 30-meter one. They found a room with smooth walls, a smooth floor, and something in the center. He doesn't know what exactly was there, but he knows it was large and that it was taken. They couldn't take it all away. It was too bulky. They took it apart and carried it out for 3 nights straight. Where they were taken is unknown, but definitely not to Egypt. The vans headed toward the port of Alexandria, and from there, possibly by sea, to Europe or further. I tried to verify this information. I searched for records of maritime transport from Alexandria in November 2019. I searched for mentions in the Egyptian press. I was looking for anything. I found one short article in the local newspaper, Al Ahram, from November 28, 2019. Headline: Ministry of Antiquities denies rumors of secret excavations. The denial itself is more interesting than the rumors. The ministry stated, and I quote, "No unauthorized work was carried out on the Giza Plateau. Reports of nighttime excavations are untrue." Who reported nighttime excavations? What rumors were denied? The article doesn't say. A simple denial out of thin air. You know how it happens? When authorities deny something no one asked about, it means they're hiding something. But there's something else. 2 months after that night, in January 2020, Zakaria Ghanim disappeared. No, wait, he didn't disappear. He disappeared for 3 weeks without explanation. He canceled all interviews, all conferences, all public appearances. For someone who has been on television for 30 years, this is unthinkable. Officially, he had health problems, but they didn't say what exactly. Then he returned, thinner, older, with a different look. And since then, not a word about the hidden camera, He had previously promised that we would definitely investigate this greatest discovery of the century. Now there's silence, as if the camera doesn't exist. What did he learn in these 3 weeks? What was he shown? Or was he ordered to remain silent? Let's get together. 2005. A chamber containing an artifact is found under the pyramid. A metal object with magnetic levitation. It is taken away. The traces are covered up. 2017. A myocardial tomography scan reveals a huge cavity in the center of the pyramid. Research is frozen. 2019. Secret nighttime work. Something is removed, taken abroad. 2020. The world's leading Egyptologist disappears for 3 weeks, returns a changed man, and falls silent. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a chronology of events, documented and verifiable. And now, the most important thing, the reason I'm telling you this. The artifact Ahmed saw, with a geometric pattern resembling a microchip, is not unique. Similar ones have been found before in different places around the world, at different times, and each time they disappeared. 1898. Greece, Antikythera Island. Sponge divers find an ancient Roman ship on the seabed. Among the amphorae and statues, there's a strange mechanism, a corroded piece of bronze the size of a shoebox. It's sent to the National Museum of Athens. For 50 years, it lies in storage. No one pays any attention. In 1951, British historian Derek de Solo Price begins his research and is horrified. Inside the mechanism are 30 bronze gears, a highly complex transmission system. It's an astronomical computer. It calculates the positions of the sun, moon, and planets and predicts eclipses. Approximately 2,000 years old. An era when such technologies officially didn't exist. The Antikythera mechanism is one of a kind. Nothing like it has ever been found. Or they found it, but never showed it. 1938. Iraq, Baghdad. German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig finds a strange object in a museum basement. A clay vessel, 15 centimeters high. Inside is a copper cylinder. Inside the cylinder is an iron rod. Everything is sealed in bitumen. Koenig realizes it's a galvanic cell. A battery. Age, 2,000 years old. If you pour acid, grape juice, or vinegar into the vessel, it will generate an electric current. Weak, but sufficient for electrolysis, for plating metals with gold or silver. The Baghdad battery. Proof that the ancients knew electricity. Where is it now? Officially lost during the Iraq War. In 2003, the museum was looted. Many exhibits disappeared. Convenient, right? 1961. USA, California. Geologists find a strange stone in the Casa Mountains. Inside is a metal cylinder 2 centimeters in diameter. Surrounding the cylinder is ceramic. Around the ceramic is fossilized rock. Geologists estimate the rock to be about 500,000 years old. X-rays revealed a wire coil inside the cylinder, like a spark plug. The Casa artifacts were studied for several years. Then silence. The publication ceased. The stone disappeared. Nobody knows where he is now. See a pattern? Every time they find something that doesn't fit into the official story, it disappears. Every time. Research stops, scientists go silent, artifacts disappear into private collections or get lost in transit. This isn't a coincidence. It's a system. Part 26. Who and why? Who controls this system? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe the Freemasons. Maybe some other organization. Maybe the governments of several countries in an agreement. But I know why. Because the truth is dangerous. Imagine it for a second. They officially announce the pyramids weren't built by the Egyptians. They were built by a civilization that existed 12,000 years ago. This civilization possessed technologies that we still don't have. What will happen? History textbooks are in the trash. Everything taught in schools and universities is a lie. Religions are in question. If there was an advanced civilization before Adam and Eve, what does that mean for the Bible, for the Quran? Science is in crisis. Physicists, archaeologists, historians, they've all been wrong for decades, centuries. Politics, chaos. Who was hiding the truth? Why? Who should we believe now? Present, are you scaling this? This isn't just an interesting discovery. This is the collapse of the entire worldview for billions of people. That's why they're hiding it. Not because they mean harm, not because they're all villains. Because they're afraid. They're afraid the world won't cope, that chaos will break out, that people will lose their bearings. They see themselves as protectors, guardians of order, those who shield humanity from the truth that will destroy it. But here's the question. Who gave them the right to decide for us? Let's return to the pyramid, to the machine. If Dan's theory is correct, and the facts support it, the pyramid generated energy. Lots of energy. Clean, free energy from the Earth's vibrations, from the planet's resonance, an inexhaustible source. Now think about who wouldn't benefit from people learning about this technology. Oil companies, gas corporations, the nuclear industry. Global energy is worth trillions of dollars a year. Trillions. Wars start over oil. Countries collapse because of gas pipelines. And suddenly someone says, the ancients knew how to extract energy from stone and air, for free, forever. Do you think they'll let this come to light? I'm not saying that oil magnates are hiding artifacts. I'm not saying that the Rockefellers personally ordered the entrance to the shaft under the pyramid to be concreted over. But I am saying this. There are forces, large and influential, transnational, that benefit from keeping humanity in the dark. Which benefit from control over energy, over information, over history. And these forces are at work every day, every hour. And now, about hope. Because there is hope. Remember the symbols? The ones found behind Gantenbrink's door. The ones repeated on the columns of Göbekli Tepe. They're in another place. In 2014, a group of amateur researchers from Russia, let's call them Group X, gained access to unpublished photographs from Egyptian archives. Don't ask how exactly. Let's just say, not all officials are corrupt. Some want the truth. Among the photographs was one taken in 1925. Howard Carter's expedition, the same one who discovered Tutankhamun's tomb. The photo shows the wall of an underground chamber. Not in Tutankhamun's tomb, but in another location. The exact location isn't indicated in the photo, but the wall is covered with symbols, the same symbols. A circle with a dot, parallel lines with a crossbar, a 7-coil spiral, and something else that's not found in Göbekli Tepe or behind Gantenbrink's door. Diagram. The diagram takes up about 2 square meters of wall space. Lines, circles, rectangles, all connected. Group X showed the photo to several engineers without context. Simply asked what it was. The answers matched. All 5 said the same thing. An electrical circuit, a schematic diagram of some device. One of the engineers, a high-frequency specialist, added, "It looks like a resonant circuit, a very complex one. It works with frequencies in the range of 50 to 200 hertz. 50, 200 hertz. The same range that Dan calculated for the pyramid machine. Coincidence? The diagram is an instruction manual. Whoever drew it 12,000 years ago, or earlier, wanted posterity to understand, so that the technology could be restored, so that the machine could be restarted. He left the drawing in case of disaster, in case civilization perished, but the pyramid remained. And the pyramid remained. And the drawing remained. Only we can't read it because they won't let us. Photograph from 1925. The only copy. The negative was destroyed. Carter's expedition records for that period are missing. They were confiscated or lost. The camera in which the photograph was taken has not been identified. It may have been buried, perhaps walled up, perhaps blown up. But the diagram exists in one photograph, in the hands of people who want the truth. And they are studying it right now, at this very moment. That's what I want you to understand. The fight is not lost. The truth is not buried. It seeps, drop by drop, through the cracks in the wall of silence. Ahmed told his story, and it reached us. The guard in Giza told his, and it reached us. Someone took a photograph from the archives, and it reached us. They are risking. Each of them risks their career, their freedom, maybe their life, but they do it because they know that truth is more important than fear. Now about you and me. We are not scientists with security clearances, nor officials with access to archives, nor billionaires with private collections. We are ordinary people who want to know the truth about our past. And we have a weapon, the only one, but a powerful one. There are many of us. Those who are hiding are hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe even tens of thousands. There are millions of us, hundreds of millions around the world. Everyone who watches this video, everyone who reads books by independent researchers, everyone who asks questions instead of swallowing the official line. We are a force that cannot be stopped. Do you know why I believe in victory? In 1993, when Schock published his findings on the Sphinx's age, he was ridiculed. Egyptologists called him a charlatan. The media ignored him. Today, 30 years later, more and more geologists agree with him. Water erosion on the Sphinx is a recognized fact. The official dating is questionable. In 1998, when Dan published his pyramid machine theory, he was declared insane. Academics refused to even discuss it. Today, 27 years later, engineers around the world are studying his calculations, finding new evidence, and building models. In 2017, when a hidden camera was discovered, Egyptian authorities promised further research. 8 years of silence, but the pressure is mounting. Millions are signing petitions. Journalists are asking questions. Politicians are starting to take an interest. Sooner or later, the wall will crack. The truth will come out. The only question is when. And that's where you're needed. No money, no connections, no clearances. We need a voice. Your voice. Share this video with your friends, family, and colleagues on social media, in messengers, everywhere. Not because I want views. Honestly, I don't care. Because every person who learns the truth is another crack in the wall. Another voice demanding answers. Another reason for those who hide to be nervous. They fear publicity. That's their weak point. When we remain silent, they remain calm. When we speak, they tremble. I know what you're thinking. One repost won't change anything. Maybe so. One repost is a drop in the ocean. But the ocean is made up of drops. Billions of drops. And when they come together, they bring down dams. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Not from tanks, not from bombs. From the people who took to the streets, who said, "Enough." There were many of them. Too many to stop. In 2011, the Mubarak regime fell in Egypt. The same Egypt that guards the secrets of the pyramids. A regime that had stood for 30 years collapsed in 18 days. Because the people took to the streets. Because the people said, "Enough." Truth is always stronger than lies. In the long run, always. They are trying to convince us that we are powerless, that they decide everything from above, that our voice means nothing. This is a lie, the most dangerous lie of all. Because if we believe, we will remain silent. And if we remain silent, They will win. Don't let them win. Epilogue. Message in stone. Let's return to the pyramid for the last time. It has stood for at least 4,500 years. Perhaps 12,000, perhaps more. It has outlived the pharaohs. It has outlived the Romans. It has outlived the Arab conquest. It has outlived Napoleon. It has outlived the British. It has outlived 2 world wars. It will outlive those who hide the truth today. And when the truth comes out, and it will, the pyramid will still stand. As a witness, as a monument to the civilization we lost, and as a promise that we can rise again. That knowledge does not vanish forever. That humanity is capable of more than we are led to believe. The builders of the pyramids, whoever they were, left us a message encoded in stone, in proportions, in symbols. They said, "We were here. We knew how to do the impossible. We perished, but our knowledge must not perish with us. Find it, understand it, use it." For 12,000 years, this message has been waiting for its recipient. Could it be us? I began this investigation with a simple question. How were the pyramids built? Now I have more questions than answers. But I know the main thing. The official story is a lie. Not a mistake. A lie. A deliberate, systematic lie, maintained for decades. Ancient civilizations possessed technologies we still don't understand. They disappeared, but they left traces, artifacts, blueprints, instructions. These traces are found and hidden again and again, year after year. But it's impossible to hide everything. The truth seeps through people like Ahmed, through people like Shok and Dan, through you and me. And one day, I believe, the dam will collapse. What will happen then? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Perhaps chaos, perhaps a crisis of faith, perhaps the collapse of the old world, but perhaps also rebirth, new understanding, new technologies, clean energy for all, free, forever. The very energy the pyramid produced. This is worth fighting for. One final thought. The pyramid does not stand to be looked at. It stands to be understood. For 4,500 years, or 12, it waits for people to stop believing the tales of slaves with copper tools. When they start asking questions, when they demand the truth. This moment is now. You've watched to the end. So you are one of those who are not afraid to know, who are not afraid to ask, who are not afraid to doubt. There are more and more like you every day. And when there are enough of us, the world will change. 3 million stone blocks, 146 meters high, precision down to the millimeter. This is not a tomb. It's a message. It's time to read it.